Hey everyone, Bloodborne here again, and got some updates for you regarding the second portion of Daddy's interview with the LOTRO team. This portion kind of focused heavily around um, raiding, the future of raiding, what that looks like, loot system, and changes to the Berg and Hunter, and they kind of even touch on fellowship maneuvers. So, one of the big things that I took away from the second portion of the interview was that they understand that the raiding portion of the community is alive and well. And there is a comment made by Severlin that, who's the executive producer, that is very ambitious of wanting to do a raid every 12 to 14 months. Now, he said that prefacing it by saying that I guess the team was going to be mad at him for saying it because it's probably going to change. But honestly, the fact that that's even a goal of something that they want to do, of being uh, attached to rating again, is something that I'm pretty excited about. Um, the topic that is kind of drawing a lot of, well, pros and cons. We'll go with that. Has been the topic of loot. Um, Now, I've played LOTRO since 2007, and the first raid I ever did on any MMO was the Rift. And quite honestly, I like the old loot system. Having lower end barterable items through a currency that's earned within the zone that you're doing, and then having the barterable token that is either rolled on or master looted and distributed through DKP or something to that effect. In you had the all the gems from the Rift. Now it kind of goes both ways with loot in that style, because if you do a DKP system, it really depends on which system you're running to how long you're going to take to get loot. If you've been raiding with a group that does like zero sum, for example, you could roll in there and clean up in one run. If you do a cumulative DKP system, it might take you a lot longer because you kind of have to earn the right to get that gear then. So the one thing that when I started raiding, we ended up doing just a a roll pass, and it was kind of a nightmare, because, well, not for me because I got a lot of loot that way, but it kind of discouraged um, the long term people. It almost favored people coming in, like, hey, I'm available today. I'm gonna hop in this raid, and they would roll and get a lucky roll, and they get out of there with a piece of loot. And then people that have been going week in, week out, ultimately got nothing. So we went away from that and went to a DKP system. Now, along the lines of raids and them wanting to do it essentially every year, which I think is a good time frame, especially if it remains the difficulty that the current one is. Because honestly, you're going to have those groups that can complete this kind of content moderately quickly. I think it took about a month for this one to be beaten on tier 2 challenge completely. And I think that's about a good difficulty tier, to get the rest of the community at that point where they can complete that kind of content. Is probably going to take a substantial amount of time. So a year seems pretty decent. And they were also hinting pretty heavily, even by I think it was Dr. Octothorpe or Pinion, one of the two. They used the phrase dark webbed enemies. So it does sound like we are going to be heading into Kirathungel, headed towards Minas Morgul, the Morgul Vale, all that good stuff, sometime soon, and which I'm excited about. That's one of my favorite places on the darker side of Middle Earth is Kirathungel, and that whole storyline that's there. And there's a lot of material that could be fleshed out there, which is pretty cool to think about. Now, one thing, I will put a link in the description to a thread that is referring to the the loot, and I highly encourage you guys to weigh in on it, because these are kind of topics that really change the dynamic of how the game is played. And this is something that, you know, I don't want to say you don't have the right to complain about it, because you certainly do, because it's a game that you might be paying for. But if you don't give your opinion, it's kind of tough. If you at least go in and give some reasons why you do or don't like a particular system, that's only going to help the developers make something better for you. Now, there's a lot of people that will talk and say that, the feedback is never received and they don't look at it. In this interview, there's a particular topic. I can't remember without looking at the text. But Severlin actually stops it and actually says, yeah, I can hear somebody saying, write that down. He's like, I'm going to bring up that to the team specifically. So, all you have to do is talk, use the forums, use the bug reporting tools, and you may not see something right away. And that's probably realistic. Long term, though, the more people that report it, the more people that talk about it, the more likelihood there, if it's something that can be achieved, the more chances we have of that becoming a reality. I was trying to think of, there's one other thing I really wanted to talk about. With the DPS of hunters and bergs and the survivability of bergs. So it was towards the end of the interview, and they really touched on burglars a little bit heavier than hunters, but the answer to them getting an increase to DPS was yes and yes. And that's looking like update 19, which looks like it's currently slated for October. Which that's good if we can get some more balancing into those two classes. And I agree, the hunter should be pretty far on top of single target DPS. I mean, ranged in any situation. Well, not any situation. I know there's going to be some people that'll point out some other situations, but in most situations, a ranged class is going to have an advantage. So that makes sense. But that being said, the one thing that was, for me personally, a little disappointing was fellowship maneuvers. And because I think that's something that's very unique to this game. And I think that it's something that really, it gave the Berg a real shiny spot in a group. Is like, there were so many situations I can recall in Shadows of Angmar and Mines of Moria where fellowship maneuvers were lifesavers. Being able to dispel wounds, fears, disease, poison, summon 1 or 2 Oathbreakers, give yourself a power over time and a health over time restore, or put nasty bleeds on targets, or just do that massive direct damage. Those things were pretty awesome, and they did certainly have a place. Now, that's, I don't know if we'll ever see that changed. It kind of sounds like dancing around the topic that we're not going to see that changed. They said if they are going to do it, it's going to be further out on the horizon. So if it's going to happen, it's probably going to be maybe next year or something, maybe even further out than that. And that's just me purely speculating on that topic. But I'm really excited that they're ambitious with getting back into the group-based content of the game. That is something that I felt they did very well with Osgiliath and with Pelennor and Throne of the Dreadterror. That content was very good. Now, don't take that as me saying that it's not flawed, because there are issues with those instances, and I don't necessarily like how there's tier 1 gear is the same thing as tier 2 gear, and I think that there are some changes that need to be done to that loot system and how it's acquired, so that tier 1 just, I don't like the whole tier 1 farming the first boss routine. I really don't like that. Um, I really do like the old way of um, Mines of Moria is personally what I recall as being my favorite style of you got those coins to barter for the piece by completing the zone itself, but you got other things like jewelry and offhands and things like that and recipes. You got that kind of stuff by completing the other bosses in the zone. So you still had, if you wanted to get the armor, you needed to complete that zone. And I still think that that is where we should be, is you should be completing the zone to get the gear. And that's my personal opinion. And again, that is someone who's played the game since it came out, and and that's just where my reference point is. That's what I was used to. That's what I was accustomed to, and quite honestly, I liked it. Now, in the thread that I have a link to in the description, the discussion about the level 85 to 95 loot changes and the classic instances, the gold items. That was a very, very frustrating time for me in this game with RNGs. My champion never got a gold piece of gear. Never. My warden got a couple pieces. And those were the two classes that I was playing every day for hours. And then I have Brookgrim, my buddy. He got all of the pieces of gold gear. And my friend Justin also got all of the gold pieces on his Lore Master. So it was naturally a very frustrating experience for me personally. And I know there's a lot of players that have been down that road. And I do know players that have left because of that scenario. So I hope that we can figure something out for the loot in this game. So like, again, I highly encourage you to go over to that thread and post your thoughts on it. What I would also encourage you to do is keep it constructive, because it's very easy for a topic like this to get derailed, and then that's where we lose the ability for that to become relevant and have the impact that we want it to have. So I think that's all I really wanted to cover with this one. I'd like to see what you guys think about the potential for more raids going forward in the future, and what you think about the loot system and kind of where we're headed. So make sure you like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it, and make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Other than that, I hope to see you guys in the live stream sometime soon, and I will catch you later. Take care.